The word of the day, volatility. Hi, I'm Paul, and this is the weekly market review. This is where I use wave analysis to try to make sense of the market and see where the market might be headed. In this video, we'll look at the S&P, the Nasdaq, some select stocks, and Bitcoin. So let's get started. And we'll start with the upcoming economic calendar. Last week, or this previous week, obviously a very volatile week with not only huge data points coming out, but also the FOMC and then big tech earnings. So volatility has returned, fear has returned now into the market. And these data points that'll be coming out in the next several months, I think are just going to be really scrutinized. Next week will be I think a very quiet week, especially compared to this past week. Biggest data point is services PMI on Monday. It is expected to tick up from 48.8 to 51. So I think if that happens, I could see a little bit of selling again. Possibility of fears of recession and maybe inflation continuing to actually reverse and go up if this is going to happen. So that'll be an interesting data point. Rest of the week is really quiet. The next biggest data point I actually think is the initial jobless claims. I think the employment numbers, as we saw today with the non-farm payroll number coming out, I think that's going to be really key in the next coming months is how employment, what happens to employment figures. Now that we've hit 4.3% unemployment, anything related to jobs, I think, is really going to be scrutinized. So that could be a key data point going forward now. All right, let's get on to the chart. We'll start with the S&P. This is the futures contract, the continuous contract. And last week we were over here, and I just had 3 waves down. And they didn't break that low. They came close twice. So they shot up. And then they came down, didn't break the low. Went back up, came down again, didn't break the low, and then they went up. So just a 3-wave, 1, 2, 3 waves up for the B wave. And as it stands right now, just a very strong sell-off for the C wave. So ABC. Now, I think this area, 53.95 to 54.34, that's a really key area to watch. Because it looks very possible that the C wave could have got kind of some buying. It could be just profit taking of short sellers, but there should be a bounce coming, if not this low, pretty soon. And as it stands right now, if 53.31 is the end of this C wave, this becomes a really critical area, because if this area holds, or I mean, if their bounce comes up, it holds, and then they sell it off again, all of a sudden now this looks very much like, instead of ABC, now it looks like diagonal. Because then instead of A, that looks like a 3-wave for 1, this would be 3 waves for 2, and then you'd have your A, B, C, and that would be 3. You'll get a 4, but then you're going to get a 5. And then you got a leading diagonal, which then means you get correction and still more down. So this area next week, or whatever the area that is, if they might push it down a little bit more, that becomes really critical. Because if it's just an ABC, I mean, then bulls are looking at it going, all right, that was all just the correction, and now we go up. Or then the other pattern is that this ABC is actually just the A wave. You do have on the 4, you do have some divergence. So, one possibility, this is just the A wave. You get a bigger B wave, still one more down, and then that'll be the correction before you head up. So key area, I think, for right now is just to see if this is a diagonal. If it's a diagonal, then obviously the S&P is going a lot lower. So let's watch that area. And then when we look at the Nasdaq, this one, I think this was, it looks very much like an expanding flat to me. Because as I said last week, I had 5 waves down to here. And then they gave a really quick 3 waves up, but then they only gave a 3-wave move down, and then that sharp up on Wednesday, Tuesday, and into Wednesday. So I think that's just an expanding flat, and then the whole market sold off on Friday, so Thursday and Friday. So I think it's just an ABC. So where on the S&P, I'm leaving it open that they could be making a leading diagonal. On this one, I really think that this is just going to be a 3-wave move. And if 18,385 is the low for the C wave, then this 18,999 to 19,300 area becomes interesting to see if it's just a 3-wave bounce into this area before they roll over one more time. Because maybe this ABC is A, you get a B, you get a C. Because I'm still thinking that this, when you zoom out, that this was all 3 up to here, and now they're in the 4. And they've come into that overlap area that I've been talking about between these 2 zones. And they're right in the middle of it right now. And so if this is going to be a 4 to go off for the 5, it should be, the 4 should be holding within this area. So, so bulls, I mean, if you're extremely bullish, you could be thinking this ABC, that is the 4, and now Nasdaq is going to march its way up for the 5th wave. I think with such strong selling, a lot of these down days have been pretty monstrous. A lot of 4, 5, even 600-point down days. Just feels like this is maybe just the A wave, and that's why I expect a 3-wave correction for a B wave, and then still one more down for the C wave, and then I think the 4 might be in, and then it would be in a position to go up for 5. So got to see if this holds and if this is the pattern that's going to play out. But to me, I think this is just a 3-wave move. You do have some divergence on both MACD and RSI, so I could definitely see that correction happening, and then maybe the 4 will still isn't quite in yet, maybe at the end of August or so. All right, so that's what I see on those 2. So we'll take a look at some stocks. AMD. Now AMD I thought was looking good, and then now all of a sudden it's not doing so great. So you got a 3-wave move, I think, WXY to there, and then you had a WXY there. And now this to me looks like an expanding flat also. So just like the Nasdaq. So 1, 2, and then if we zoom in, I only see 3 waves so far. 1, 2, 3. So I think AMD has one more drop to go to complete the impulse. So that would be like the A wave. Here was the B wave correction. And now we need a C wave, and it's got to be 5 waves. So to me, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it should break 130 one more time, fall under it somewhere, and that would complete the 5 waves. And then you'd have your 1, 2, 3 wave move. And then that would actually be a good place to buy AMD, because there has to, even if it's going to go down, so go back up to a 4-hour, even if it's going to go down for a diagonal, because let's say this WXY, that was 1, this WXY, that was 2. And if this is going to be 1, 2, and then 3, first of all, the math doesn't quite work out for a diagonal, unless this is just going to be like 1, 2, 3. That's the A wave. You're going to get a B wave, and then another wave down, because the actual target for the third wave is 101. So AMD would have to fall. What is that? That's a big fall. So from where it is right now to get, yeah, that's still 24%. It's already fallen a whole bunch. I can't imagine AMD's going to fall 24 more percent just to finish the third wave. But, you know, it could if the whole market's going to sell off. But so I don't think that it would be a simple A, B, and then this is going to fall all the way down here because, like I said, I've got 3 waves, and I think the 4 is in too, and I think it's just coming down now for the 5th wave. I don't think the 5th wave would reach that. That'd be a weird to have the four waves only go to there, but your 5th wave would be, you know, almost twice as long as what the first 4 waves accomplished. So even if it's going to go down, you know, if you can get it under 130, maybe that's just the A wave of the third wave. You know, there'll be a bounce before it would roll over. So I think you could do at least a short-term trade. And, you know, and if you're lucky, this is just a big WXY correction in this purple zone, which is what I've had for a while. And it'd be really close to that perfect 114 level. And then it could be in a position to go back up. So, yeah, I think waiting for that to finish the 5th wave and then looking for a buy, I think that's a very relatively safe for at least a short-term trade. All right, let's move on. Going to take a quick look at Amazon just because it got hammered. And the same thing, we zoom in here. See 3, 3, and then straight down. So it looks to me very much A, B, C. So the key area now for Amazon is this 170 to 176 area because it's already started to come up. But if it comes up into this zone in 3 waves and then rolls over and breaks 160, now all of a sudden you got the look of a diagonal. And instead of A, B, C, it'd be 1, 2, and then coming down again, that would finish the third wave. Then you can actually, you know, kind of play short-term trades because if it does, like correct down, go back up, and then come back down, somewhere down under 160, something in the 150s, you know, there has to be a 4. And, you know, I would think you'd probably be able to make, yeah, that should be able to get, you know, about an 8% move up for that 4, but it's just a short-term trade because then if this plays out the way I have it, then there will be most likely a 5th wave because they'll have a very strong downward movement, so looking like a diagonal going down. But, you know, 8% move wouldn't be bad to catch. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to NVIDIA. So now NVIDIA is down at the bottom of this zone. So now getting a little worried about this diagonal still playing out. You know, so as I've been saying, I thought that was 1, ABC down for 2, that was 3, and you got like an A and a B. This is starting to get a little bit of an impulsive look to it because I was wondering if this would be 4 and then they go back up for 5, which would complete the third wave, the 5th of the 5th of the third, and then they would still come back down for 4 and then still go back up for 5. So NVIDIA really, I think it's got a hold here because if there's and it's already started to make a correction here, going up. Yeah. You know, off of this 101 low, it's a pretty good bounce up. But I think if this were to correct again and fall underneath, now all of a sudden you just got so many waves that it's now starting to look like a diagonal to me. And then I don't know what they're doing in NVIDIA. I'll have to look at that again. So I think 100 really has to hold for NVIDIA, because another leg lower, and you got just so many ways that there's I think there's something else going on, and it's not just a three-wave move like I was expecting. So NVIDIA, like if you're wanting to take a flyer on it, I mean it'd be pretty good to buy here, because you could have a really tight stop. I mean 100, and I'd want to be out because something else is going on. Because you got three waves, but yeah, any more downside, and I think there's a bigger correction happening, and I'm gonna have to relook at this whole pattern then. All right, let's look at Tesla. Tesla, I think, is making a WXY, because you had this A, B, and then a C wave down, and then there was a 5-wave move, and I was wondering if this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move was a possible leading diagonal at the time. Really didn't, the 5th wave didn't hit the target, so it was hard to tell if that was a leading diagonal or just a triple correction. Well, they proved it was just a triple correction because they came and broke that low. So now it looks to me, because this is a 5-wave move, a triple correction, that's an X wave. So I think this 3-wave move, WX, and right now there's this little correction thing going over here and then straight down. So I think that this is the 3 waves for the Y. This could be, maybe this was some kind of a diagonal, maybe they'll correct up and then one more down for the Y, but I'm expecting just 3 waves for the Y. So now that becomes interesting, because anytime you got a WXY, there's always a potential for 3 more up and then still 3 more down and give you a WXY XZ. Or if you're extremely bullish on Tesla, WXY, that's just a correction. So WXY, that's all the correction, and it's right at that 207 level that I've had for a while. So, it could be just a very deep correction, and then they're going to go back up and take out the high. That's the ultra bullish case. So yeah, I mean, I obviously would not want to be shorting right here. Just, you're also at this 204 level. The buyers I know would be stepping in this green zone, and you're at the bottom of this zone. So just seems like this would be the place where now I would be expecting at least a bounce. So WXY, and you should get at least a 3-wave bounce, if not total upside. But there is potential still of more down, and who knows? I mean, this WXY could be the start of a leading diagonal too. So maybe you get a 3-wave move up, and that WXY, that was 1, and then the 2, and then it's going to roll over for 3, 4, and 5. So who knows? I mean, we got to wait and see. But as it stands right now, it's a WXY, and it's at an area where I think buyers might be coming in. So will be buyers just for a bounce and then still more down, or is it just for correction of a much, much bigger downside to Tesla? We'll wait and see. All right. ZScaler. So this has fallen a lot farther than I was expecting. So, I thought that this was a leading diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. much bigger downfall. So I wouldn't buy. You had that big gap down. Wouldn't be buying until I saw, like, on a micro level, I saw 5 waves up followed by a correction. Then I'd buy the correction. Because right now, when I zoom out, you had this big 3-wave move down. This could be WXYXZ, so a triple correct. So it could be W, and then this was all X, and then this could just be the start of the Y wave, and you get a correction up, and then one more down. So there's that pattern that's definitely what looks like is in play. So now, like I said, I'd either want to wait and see 5 waves up and then buy after a correction, or just let this thing, if it's going to make this Y pattern, let it fall under 155, and then that becomes a really attractive area somewhere over in the 150s. All right, and let's move on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin now, after this WXY pattern, we've had 5 waves down, quick correction, and strong sell-off. So it's a 1, 2, 3 pattern, and it's right in this buy zone here now. So it's actually a good place to take a chance on Bitcoin, because the potential is that this WXY, that's 1, and this ABC is 2, and now you're going to go up for 3, 4, and 5. There's that potential. Now this is a very, I mean, given how long this WXY took, kind of think that what this is just like going to be, you know, just like this was a W or an X and a Y. This could be 1, 2, 3, 4, either A or W. I would expect like a correction up and then still one more down, just to take up some more time, give it a little more comparison to that first wave. But it's in a zone. I mean, so at least you're going to get a bounce up. You know, even if it's in a fall again, there has to be a correction up. So, you know, taking a flyer and seeing how high it goes, I don't think that's a bad play. So, yeah, at a minimum, I would think you'll get a 3 wave, and if you're lucky, then it goes all the way up. But you know, if the market is any indication, I think there's a lot of fear now, and could be getting just a bounce up, but still one more down. And then Bitcoin underneath 61, 195 would be really attractive after that 3-wave move. All right, that's the market as I see it. Hope it helps. Thanks for watching. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.